Ladies and gentlemen, NFJPR Region 4 brings you the first episode of AetherTalk, the podcast, with the theme LUPA, Living Unpressured, Practicing Adaptability. Now, let's welcome our host, Miss Erica Masangkay.
Excelexu Lawida R4 Sapiens. Welcome to LUPA, Living on Pressure, Practicing Adaptability, a podcast dedicated to helping you find strength and stability amidst life's challenges. Whether you're a student, a leader, or simply someone trying to navigate the complexities of life, this space is made specially just for you. But let's start with a question. Have you ever felt like you're carrying more than you can handle? Like, no matter how much you try to push through, the weight just keeps on piling on, and the path ahead feels steeper and harder to climb. It's a feeling many of us know all too well, especially when we're striving for excellence in everything that we do. But here's something that you can ponder on. Even the mightiest of eagles, known for their strength and grace, take moments to rest. They find stillness in the chaos, recharge their energy, and rise again when the winds are in their favor. Similarly, the earth, our foundation, teaches us that balance is not just about pushing forward, but knowing when to pause and nurture ourselves. Life's demands can sometimes feel relentless, but what if I tell you there's a way to navigate all of it without losing yourself in the process? That there's a way to manage the pressures you face while staying grounded and focused on what truly matters. And tonight, we're diving into something that impacts all of us often goes unspoken, and that gives you the main point why you and I are both here. It's about reclaiming your energy, finding your balance, and learning to rise above challenges with clarity and purpose. And we'll explore how to face life's demands without losing your spark. And trust me, it's possible. And to help us unravel this, I'm excited to introduce our guest for tonight. And he is none other than Mr. Carl Umali, a transformational leader and an advocate for resilience and growth. Mr. Umali embodies the wisdom of adaptability and the courage of the eagle. And allow me to take you a little back in time. At 24 years of age, he has failed many times in life. He failed in math many times. He was a student leader but failed to make a real change. He did not graduate top of his class in 2012, 2017, 2019, and 2023. He was appointed the creative director of his college program club but stopped a week later. In the first three basketball leagues he competed in, he consistently scored 0 points. His first entrepreneurial venture failed. His first job failed. He failed at school, competitions, and contests. He failed so badly that he was ridiculed and embarrassed. Mr. Carl failed at many things and will fail more in the future. But today, it is with pride to introduce him to all of you. Mr. Carl Umali is now the founder of the Clarity Project. It's a multimedia class that aims to help people become clearer thinkers and better decision makers. He is a degree holder. He won awards in creative endeavors such as filmmaking, spoken poetry, and public speaking. He is a storyteller. He is a podcast host, a writer, and a filmmaker, a son, a brother, and a friend. And his social media biases. I'm not telling you what to do or how to think. I am inviting you to discover and to think on your own. And tonight, he will be sharing powerful insights and practical strategies to help you rediscover your strength and focus no matter what life throws your way. So, our four sapiens, sit back, breathe deeply, and let's take this moment to reconnect with ourselves. Together, let's uncover the tools we need to stay steady and soar high. This is Lupa, living unpressured, practicing adaptability. Brace yourselves as we will now take flight. Mr. Mali, the floor is now yours.
All right. So I first like to ask the most important question, which is, can you hear me? All right. So wow, that has to be one of the best introduction that I've ever had. That's such a surreal introduction. I really like your vibe. I really like how you introduced that. So yeah, props for that. Before anything else, I'd like to first thank your whole organization for having me for today. This really is an honor for me to be able to be here. Just a few weeks ago, I also had a talk for JPIIE in Batangas State University, their industrial engineering organization. And to be here a few weeks later to your wonderful organization, the National Federation of Junior Philippine Accountants, Region 4, is such a surreal feeling for me. So, yeah, I like to be able to thank everybody that was involved in making this possible. I like to thank your advisors. I like to thank your president all the way to each member. I also like to thank each and every student that is here, is giving us their time of day, despite that we know that tomorrow is going to be a holiday. So thank you so much for that, and everybody that's here that so happens to pass by this. I don't know if there's a live stream or not, but this video. Hello, and I welcome each and every one of you. So let's get started, shall we? So let me share my screen. All right. So I just sent a request to share my screen. Now let me share my screen. All right. So the second most important question is, can you see my screen? All right. So a little bit of a context. This is the topic that we're going to be talking about for the rest of the evening, for the rest of the hour. It is called Living Unpressured, Practicing Adaptability. Now, a little bit of a backstory. So, this isn't actually the first topic that I'm supposed to be having a presentation with. This is actually a change topic a few days before. Uh, and I think that just shows a little bit about how much it is needed for us to be able to be adaptable. So this was changed in a last minute, a few days notice, but I was able to pull this off, and hopefully it would be amazing by the end of this. So that's a little bit of a context. It's just a little bit of something that I guess a lot of people would want to know or should know. So yeah, this is called Living Unpressured, Practicing Adaptability. And right away, you would probably have an idea on what this is going to be about. Probably you already have something that in your mind and what it's going to be about. So the whole talk and the whole presentation that I'm going to share with all of you guys and is something that I want to be able to dig deeper into this, right? I want to be able to share this and understand this with you at a level that is much more, it's on a much deeper level, right? So another thing is that one thing that you could see here is that it says living unpressured. Just a little bit of a trivia. I made this slide just today. Now, I don't know if that's something that, oh, Carl, that's living unpressured. Or what the hell are you doing? Why did you prepare so late for this? I said, no, that's just the way that I am. That's just the way that I do everything. You could see that in my podcast. If you would look at the Clarity Project podcast, it's the exact same thing. And each and every talk of mine and each of my talking, speaking engagement, they're all done almost to the last minute. And the reason for that is because I don't want it to be canned. I don't want it to be like a presentation, like I'm presenting something. I want it to be a conversation. I want it to be as natural as possible. And that is something that I want to be able to deliver here. And that's why I'm inviting each and every one of you to learn as much as possible along with me real time. So, that being said, I'm sorry, I know the introduction is long, but I believe that is needed for context. So, next slide. What's the point? So, I want to start off with this question. What is the point of all of this? What is the point on why we are actually doing this? To some of you here feel like, oh, tomorrow's a holiday. I don't really want to join that. So maybe some people here didn't join because of that. Because oh, I have so much free time. I could binge Netflix. I could watch whatever I want. I could do whatever I want. I could pursue other things, and then there are other people here that are watching in the background, watching this and listening to this in the background while scrolling through social media, scrolling through their phone. Nothing wrong with that. I can give you that. Nothing wrong with that. So, one thing that I could do is this. For people who are actually here, who's here to listen and to learn, welcome, right? And I also want to welcome everybody in every walks of life, regardless of your situation. I want to welcome each and every one of you. So this is for those people that want to actually have just one thing that they can grab that will dramatically change the way that they will live their life afterwards. Now I know that's a bold claim. That's something that is really out there, but I want to be able to address this because we never know where that is going to come from. We never know where the first inspiration, spark of inspiration is going to come from. We never know where that motivation is going to come from. And we never know what that life changing moment is going to have for us. And that's why I invite each and every one of you to this presentation and relax as much as possible. And the pressure, well, is on me on this time. Right. Next, here are the three things that we are going to learn. Number one, what is pressure? Right. Number two, what is adaptability? Number three, how to adapt and live unpressured. So I like to be able to talk about these strings. And as you can see, number one and number two is all about definition. It's about knowing these things on a definitive level, which I think is very important for us to be able to understand further in number three on how and why is it exactly needed and how we're going to adapt and live an unpressured life. So these are the three things that we're going to learn. These are the promise. These is what we are going to talk about for the rest of the evening. Next, one, what is pressure? Now, I want to ask that to each and everybody in the comments. Write down what you think pressure is, right? So, pressure is something that is very personal to us, right? It could be anything that you could have, that's something that you're having pressure on right now. What is pressure for you? All right, let me read some. All right, while we're waiting for other people's definition of pressure, we want to be able to talk about what is it exactly, what pressure is. And I'm going to tell you this in a simple manner, in a simple sense, as simple as possible. So, pressure is something, a feeling of discomfort, right? It's feeling of unease. It's when something doesn't happen yet, and yet you want to go there. It's something that is holding us back. It is something that is a very funny feeling. It's a very difficult feeling to have, and it is something that is in the most sense, and always in the most sense, it is always something that is seen as negative. I'm going to read some of the comment here. It says that it is a stress or tension, where it is of a person feels when faced with demanding circumstances. That's absolutely right. Who is that? All right, RJ, I'm saying that right. Right. So that's from RJ. So those are your definitions of pressure. And each and every definition of pressure is going to be personal, right? What is pressure to me might not be pressure to you, and vice versa. But in a general sense, it is a feeling of discomfort, it's a feeling of unease. As RJ said, it's a feeling of tension when you're doing something. Next, there are ways on how we could learn about pressure. And there's are two ways, two general ways on how we could understand pressure, right? It is both internal and external. What do I mean by that? All right. Pressure can come from an internal source and an external source. Some pressure is from the inside, some pressure is from the outside. It comes from within or it comes from the environment. It could be something that you're thinking, it could be your belief, it could be your headspace, it could be something that you have thought of as a vista throughout your entire life. In an external sense, it could be something that is brought to you upon by society. It could be a pressure from a significant kind of a group. Maybe it's peer pressure, as we call it. Maybe it's pressure from your family. Maybe it's pressure in terms of academics. Maybe it's pressure in terms of your future self. Pressure in terms of who you're going to be in the future. Next, what is pressure? Pressure is could be real and unreal, right? There's another two things of how you could look at pressure is that it could either be real or unreal. Here's the thing. Pressure could be something that is absolute. It could be something that is real. It could be something as material. It could be something as objective. But it could also be fabricated. It could also be imagined. It could be also something that doesn't exist. And the only place that it exists is in your head. That's how we should look about it pressure. Again, a small recap, it could be either external or internal. It could be real or unreal. And we're going to unpack those things and we're going to unpack those definitions as we move forward to the presentation. All right? So next, let me share to you a tweet of mine, and I always share this every time that I have a talk because I don't know, it's just something about it that just is so uh just so touching for me, right? Personally. So, what is pressure? And this is a tweet from January 31, 2023. Let me read it. Look at you. You are so afraid of something that hasn't happened yet, that in your life, nothing has happened yet. Let me repeat that. Look at you. You are so afraid of something that hasn't happened yet that in your life, nothing has happened yet. That's the ultimate pressure. And as we've talked about earlier, just a few seconds ago, a few minutes ago, we're talking about the two types of pressure in terms of real and unreal, external and internal, and this absolutely encapsulates that, right? You could look at here, right? There could be a true pressure coming from your peers, and that's why you don't want to risk it. That's why you don't want to take the chance. There could be a real kind of definite uh, pressure from your parents, from your family, from your group, from your peers, and that's why you don't want to do it. But it could also be that those kinds of pressure hasn't happened yet. Those kinds of pressure would never happen. And it's just a fabrication. It's just a pigment of your imagination. It is also true that it comes from internal and external. You're so afraid of something that hasn't happened yet that you're overthinking it. You feel like you don't deserve it. And so why bother, right? You feel like you're not enough. You feel like you're not good enough. You feel like you're somebody who's just a nobody, right? You're a normie, right? You're mediocre. You're never going to amount to anything. And so you're back rationalizing to yourself. You said to yourself, you know what? Maybe I can't actually do this. You know what? Maybe some people can do it, but those people are not me. That will never be me. Sometimes that's how we look at life. And sometimes that's the apparent kind of a reality for a lot of people, right? They're so afraid of not taking risks. They're so afraid of something that hasn't happened yet, that in your life, nothing has happened yet. Let me go to the next slide. Here we are, thinking of our careers. And this is a little bit of a humorous street of mine. Here we are thinking of our careers, where our ancestors were thinking of sacrificing one of our ancient uncles because it won't stop raining, right? Talk about pressure, right? Now, I wanted to be able to share this, and I know it sounds silly, it sounds like it sounds amusing, but really, if we try and look at why I'm sharing this, right? Everything that you are having and you're feeling today, the external validations that you're asking for everybody and in terms of society, the norms that you so care about, all of these things are modern constructs. All of these things are just made up by people in no less than 1,000 centuries ago, right? If you go back a million years ago, if you try and look at society today and you compare it, there is no such thing as schools. There's no such thing as a formal education. There's no such thing as getting a degree after 4 years, going to job interviews, having a career, and then retiring. There's no such thing. All of these things that you so care about are modern constructs. All of these things that you so care about didn't matter before. And if you could do a little bit of an imagination, an imagined reality, perhaps in the future, the standards are going to be different. Perhaps in the future, the norms, the expectations, the needs, the wants, what's in is going to be different. Here's the thing, in order for you to be able to understand what true pressure is, it's the things that stand the test of time, regardless of wherever we are. In the epoch or the zeitgeist of the time, it doesn't matter. Those are the things that have true pressure for you, right? Just take a look at this, right? Our careers didn't exist before, and our ancestors were really trying to think of sacrificing one of our family members, our uncles. That's the ultimate peer pressure. We had uh, we had a typhoon, several typhoons, right? And a super typhoon, one of them just recently. And would you imagine that if our president would actually tell to us, you know what, let's sacrifice one of our senators, right? Although some people would be for that. But what if we try and look at that in terms of that sense, right? Like what's gonna happen? So yeah, at those point they were pressured because they feel like, oh, you really need to die, uncle. I'm so sorry. This is the pressure. This is the standard. This is the norm. We really have to let you go. We have to sacrifice you. I'm so sorry, but that's just how the way it is. That's the standard of today. All right. So enough of that. Enough of foolishness and out of silliness. Let's get to the next slide. All right. So remember what I said about true pressures will uh, go through the test of time. Here's the thing, right? What is pressure? We suffer more in imagination than in reality. This is from Seneca. That's from 1,000 years ago. This is an ancient philosopher that we're talking about. This is a Stoic philosopher. And this I tweeted this back in January 13, 2022. And I guess this is pretty much self-explanatory, right? From what we've discussed, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Sometimes what happens in our mind is worse than what's going to happen in reality or what is currently happening in reality. Next, here's number 2. What is adaptability? Let me go to the next slide. Here's the thing. So, as you could see, if you could try and peruse this tweet of mine, what is adaptability? You could be able to see that the date is actually today. Remember what that I said that I made this slide today? Look at this slide, this particular slide. It is from November 29, 2024, the date today, and it was made 5:09 p.m. That was 3 hours ago. That was 3 hours ago. And so this is what I'm talking about in terms of adaptability, right? So this is my a little bit of an explanation on what it is because I feel like I needed something that would really encapsulate it. And this, I believe, it is, right? Adaptability is intelligence in motion. It's about being aware that the world changes and you must change with it. Before, it meant life and death, survival and extinction. It's the same today. But now, there are social life, love life, career, passion, health, and peace. This really brings it home because adaptability back then is really a trait for survival, for life and death. You probably learned this in grade school science, right? Uh, those who are able to adapt, those who are able to adapt, are those who could be able to evolve enough, fast enough, that's going to survive. Our species and everybody, every species that is alive today, that is present today, is a result of that. They adapted, they evolved based on the circumstances, based on the needs of their current situation. Each and every of our trait is a result of our ancestors' hardships. Each and every of our trait is a result of our ancestors' shortcomings. The reason the giraffe has such a long neck is because they needed to eat from a taller tree. As simple as that, right? It is adaptability, is the intelligence in motion. Why does it say that it's intelligence in motion? Because recognizing is not the end all be all, right? It doesn't stop at recognizing. You must be able to actually put in the effort. Once that you know that you got to adapt, that you must change with the world. It's understanding that the world as you know it is changing. There's a popular adage that says the only thing that is constant is change, and everybody knows that adage. Now, here's the thing we all know that the world is changing, and yet why so much of us doesn't want to adapt, doesn't want to change? Change is difficult, right? It's a matter of life and death. It's a matter of survival and extinction. Maybe not in a literal sense, as opposed to the millions of years ago, because today, adaptability is about adapting in our social life, in our love life, in our career, our passion, health, and peace. That's how we should look at it, right? We need to adapt in order for our life to be congruent to where we want to go in terms of the different aspects in our life that we deem as worth it. That's how we should look at it. If you're in a relationship where it needs for you to be able to be a better partner, it needs for you to be a better cook, it needs for you in a career where you need to upskill. As a student, it demands you to be better at math. If you're in a career where it demands you to be a better communicator, a better networker, a better someone who knows how to explain the most complex ideas in as simple as possible, then that's what you're going to do. You are able to adapt. You're able to go and change with the times. As Bruce Lee said, be water, my friend. You got to be able to adapt and take form and take shape with everybody and every situation that you are in. You don't have to do it, but not doing so would affect your survival, your life and death in terms of those things. So, let me proceed to the next slide. What is adaptability? Here's a tweet of mine from September 16, 2024. Growth is invisible at first, so is decline. Here's the thing we're always adapting, whether you're aware of it or not. You're always changing, whether you're aware of it or not. But the thing is, and the biggest question is, are you changing for the better or changing for the worse? Right? Building blocks and breaking blocks looks the same at the beginning. And sometimes, here's the thing if you don't reflect enough, and this is not because I'm the founder of the Clarity Project, but you do need clarity. You need clarity because at the start, when you're doing it, you don't see growth, you don't see decline. You know when you're going to see it? You're going to see it when the effects is already there, when the outcome is already there. And sometimes the effects, the outcome happens or comes out when it's already there and when it's already too late because it has already happened. Sometimes result happens years and years in the making. Sometimes it takes so much time before you could see the output of it, right? That's why it says growth is invisible at first, but so is decline. So each and everybody here, you got to be cognizant about what it is that you are feeling. You got to be cognizant for what it is that you're currently in if you want to adapt because you are going to adapt whether you like it or not. But the question is, are you adapting to be better or you are adapting to be worse? Next, what is adaptability? We are creatures of habit. And so, whatever we do most of the time identifies us. But not really. We are also creatures of choice, and one change can make a difference right away. Here's the thing your identity today is your identity because you decided a few years ago that you're going to be this. You decided a few years ago that you're going to pursue this degree. You're going to go into this career. But here's the thing. When you were in high school, junior high school, did you really believe, did you really thought that you wanted to be an accountant? When you were in grade school, do you really wanted to be an accountant? And maybe some of you here would say, yeah, well, yeah, I always want to be an accountant. If that's you, then good for you. But here's the thing. Most of us, even though we wanted to be an accountant, didn't know anything about accountancy at that point, right? And now look at you. Maybe you're in your first year, fourth year, whatever. You are slowly becoming an expert at this. All of a sudden, you have all of this knowledge, all of these skills that you didn't have before. They were not there, right? So you're telling me, oh, I can't change, I can't adapt. And yet, look at where you are today, right? So we are creatures of habit. What we do most of the time identifies us, right? I've been someone who has changed multiple times in my life, right? Depending on when you met me, you're going to have a different identity for me, right? At early in school, in grade school, I was kind of like the artist. I used to do comic books. I used to draw all the time in class. I do art competitions of some sort. That's me. If you met me in grade school, you would expect, oh, Carl, oh, that's Carl. He likes to draw. He's good at drawing. So that's my identity, your identity for me. At the later part, you would probably know me as the dancer, someone who's always dancing. Like, what is wrong with that guy, right? Always in the trance. Before TikTok was a thing, he was always dancing. Some people know me as a dancer, which is weird. Another thing, a lot of people, junior high school, would know me as someone who played basketball. I remember I was so obsessed with basketball during junior high school. I would always play every time there's a court and there's a ball, even there was no court, even if there was no ball, I'll try to make a way to be able to play. You know, like little trash cans that we have in the schoolroom, we'll make that as the goal. We'll make that as the ring. And we would put up crumpled paper. We're going to put like a tape on it and we're going to make it bigger. And then we're going to play basketball with that. That's how much of an addict I was in terms of basketball. And yet, fast forward, right? I became someone who is known for spoken poetry, for public speaking, all of these identities, right? At some point in senior high school, I became someone who's known as someone who does films. And it's kind of weird when people of different kind of who met me at different points of my life and when they get together and when they get to talk about me, they're like, no way Carl plays basketball, that's just not true. No way that physique, that body, that can't possibly play basketball. Oh really, Carl is a dancer? I don't believe you, right? Carl is just like super serious all the time. That doesn't happen at all. So all of these things, your identity that you have today, all of the identities that you had throughout all of your life, all of these things identifies you. But here's the thing, it's not permanent. You can always change. You can always change who you are. You can always change who you're going to be. That is the freedom that a lot of people are missing on. That is the reality that a lot of people don't see. Next, what is adaptability? Here's a tweet of mine and one of my threads, a tweet of mine, right? So this is a blog. Actually, I also made a blog out of this. And you want to see the full blog, it's in my website, www.carlumali.com. This is I was 22 years old when I did this. Actually, just 21 because it was from November 6, 2021. I was 21 years old when I did this. And this is 22 life lessons I learned in college. And this is number 10, right? There's 22 lessons that I learned in college. This is number 10. Let me read it to you guys. College is a short time if you look at it in a lifetime. Enjoy it while you are in it. Experience all that you can be, but be smart about it. Remember how fast high school went by? It's the same thing here. Don't lose it. Stay present. I'm saying this because you got to be aware of the chapter of your life that you're in right now. You got to be cognizant of the current situation, the current epoch that you are in now. You got to be able to look at life for where you are presently, right? Because you don't want to be someone who graduate in college and then realize that it's all over, that you missed out on a lot of opportunities, that you missed out on becoming who you want to be as a college student. Now that could be different from each and every college student. That would be different for each and every person. But the reality is, sometimes, if you're not thinking about the present, you're going to look back and not really know what happened. It's like, what the heck happened? Right? I don't remember anything. It's almost like you have amnesia. And that's because you didn't appreciate it. Right? Like this is a cliche. And it's like you appreciate something when it's already too late. Right? It's a cliche. But here's the thing, now that we know that it's a cliche, we know that this is a fundamental truth. Wouldn't it be nice if we appreciate things as they're currently happening? Wouldn't it be nice if we appreciate things as they are currently doing, right? As it's currently happening? Wouldn't that be nicer? Here's the thing. I wish that you live more than 100 years old, but let's just say that you live to all the way to 100 years old, right? If you try and look at college, how many years do we have in college? The average is 4 years. And if you live all the way to 100 years old, that means college is only 4% of your life. A lot of people here are like, I can't wait to graduate college. I can't wait to stop doing all of these things. This doesn't really matter. Like, it's so long. I want to graduate so fast. But if you try and look at it in terms of your lifetime, it's so short. It's 4% of your life if you live all the way to 100, and I wish that. Here's the thing, there's so much things that is happening in the world, so much things in terms of how you're going to handle pressure, how to handle adaptability. You got to be able to really dig down, deep down, and really see the chapter that you are in your life right now, which is that you're in college. You're here to learn, you're here to have the best time of your life. You're here to fail. And that's why college is done, is because failing in college isn't really failure. Failure in college is just made up. It's the school system is designed for you to fail. And so that you don't have to fail in the real world. Right? A lot of people, and I have a reel about this. I have a TikTok video about this, which is like the biggest mistake that you can do as a college student is playing it safe. That's the biggest mistake because school is there for you to fail. School is there for you to take a risk because failing in school doesn't really hurt you. You might feel like, oh man, it's such a shame, right? It's embarrassing for me to be able to fail in school. That's not true. All of the status games in school is not true, right? All of the things that you feel like is so important in school is not true. School is there for you to try and fail or succeed. That's the whole point of school. It's for you to learn, to trial and error, to knowledge and skills, to repetition and iteration. That's what school is for. Next, number 3. And this is the final thing that you're going to learn here. how to adapt and live unpressured. So now that we kind of have an understanding of what pressure is, same thing as what adaptability is, now it's time for the practical steps. Now it's time for us to actually understand on how to adapt and live unpressured, which is what this whole thing is all about. Get to it. How to adapt and live unpressured? Here's the thing, right? I'm going to read it to you. This is from September 9, 2021. Decide whether you want high grades or passing grades. If you want to be a top student or a DL or Dean's Lister, decide. If you just want to learn, improve, to just use the formal education as one of your tools, decide. Decide and school will be easier for you from now on. Know your priority. Maybe the reason you feel so pressured right now is because you want 1,000 things all at the same time, right? And you're not clear about what is exactly that you want. What is it exactly that you should pursue? That's why you feel so pressured, right? Because you're trying to achieve everything. And here's a spoiler alert: no one has ever achieved everything. Most of the people that you know now, the famous people that we look up to, our heroes, they achieve one or two things and they're really good at it. They're really great at it, but never at everything. Okay? And that's why this is absolutely important. And I'm not saying this because I'm the clarity guy, the founder of the Clarity Project. No, but you really do need the clarity to be able to understand this, right? Decide whether you want high grades or passing grades, right? What's the difference for these things, right? One path says that you want to have a Latin honor. One path says that you want to be an academic achiever. The other path says that, you know what, I'm not really going to pressure myself academically. I'm just going to do enough to learn and to pass, and I'm going to focus on other things. Now, here's the thing. You might be asking me, Carl, all right, so those two are the choices. So, what is better, right? Here's the thing, it's about who you are. I can't answer that for you. Some people would actually thrive if they choose the path for academic success. Some people will thrive if they choose the path where they're just going to use the diploma because that's the system that we're in. We need this, but I'm going to focus on something else, something that is beyond academic achievement. Now, let me warn you, that second path might seem to be attractive. That second path might seem to be something that is easier, but let me tell you, it is way harder because this time you are taking the risk of not being a high achiever. And so when the employment happens and the employer gets in an interview with you, you have nothing to show for in terms of, hey, I'm a consistent Dean's Lister. Hey, I'm a consistent honor student. Hey, I got a Latin honor in my name. You have nothing to show for. All the things that you're going to have are the things that you learn outside of school. And this is really tricky, right? And there's like a whole talk that I could talk to you about on how to actually achieve this and how to actually do this. But the way that I look at it in just a glance, right? The way that I look at it is that if you choose the latter part, the second part, which is just using the education as a tool, you are going to have to be okay with the reality that you need to be able to get and learn from other sources beyond the lectures that your professors are telling you, beyond the textbooks that the curriculum is giving you, beyond the assignments and beyond the projects that they're giving you. You have to dig deeper. You have to look at other resources. You have to look at other materials because that's how you actually improve beyond school, right? The first part is actually is kind of like a cheat code. The first part is a cheat code. If you become an academic achiever, you're going to learn, you're going to have the skills. And that's going to make you good. But the second part is actually going to make you great. But being great is easier said than done. Being great is actually way harder than just being good. Some people cannot stand school, and I know that. That's why there's a debate on, and I'm going to say in transition to Filipino, diskarte o diploma. Absolutely hate that because there's like two people and there's two different ways on how you should look at it, right? So here's the thing: how to adapt and live unpressured. Decide, what do you want? Do you want high grades or just want passing grades? Because what this is going to do is going to relieve the pressure in terms of your decision making. For example, I wanted to be a dean's lister. I wanted to graduate with a Latin honor. Automatically, all of the decisions, all the choices that I'm going to make should be in terms of how I'm going to achieve that goal. And everything that is preventing me from that goal, I'm not going to do. I'm not going to engage in. A lot of people can't decide because they're not really sure. Do I want to pass this? Do I want to be an honor student? Do I want to be? And they think about this and they don't have a choice and they really can't decide for themselves because they don't have that definition and definite answer to begin with, right? And now, if you're someone who wants to go beyond school, beyond academics, you're going to be someone when there's a test, when there's an academic exam, you're going to be someone who just wants to learn most of it, but not all of it, right? You just want to pass. And that's how and how be, how you can be a better decision maker. Next, how to adapt and live unpressured. Maybe take a day off and try and immerse yourself in who you want to be and think about the first few steps you should commit to. Read a really good book, watch some educational videos. Maybe you need that more than a day of watching random shows as a stand in for soul searching. Let me let that sink in for a moment. When was the last time that you gave yourself the time? Like, really gave yourself the time to think for yourself? Your me time, as we call it. When was the last time that you did that? When was the last time that you had a date with yourself of really assessing where you are in your life, where you want to go, right? What are the achievements that you have made? What are the failures that you have gone through? What are the lessons in your life so far? What are the things that you care about, right? A lot of people they don't even think about these stuff. And this is what really is what life is all about. It's about the amalgamation, right? The many things that we have done throughout the years. A lot of people they realize this when it's already too late. A lot of people they realize this, and I would revert to that. I would say that some people never realize this, right? Sometimes their time is up and they don't even realize that they were living all this time, right? So how to adapt and to live unpressured? You got to be clear with what it is that you really want in your life. You have to be clear, at least, at the very least, what it is that you enjoy, right? You got to be happy with your relationship with yourself. Why? Because the relationship with yourself is the longest relationship that you're going to have. You are with yourself from the start and the beginning. Your relationship with yourself is going to be the most important relationship that you're going to have. So if you feel that you need to adapt, that you need to unpressured, that all comes to whether you feel that you know and understand yourself. Next, how to adapt and live unpressured. This is a tweet of mine from September 14, 2024. It says, time is counting forward, but your time is counting backward. Here's the thing, we don't have forever. That's the thing. We don't have forever. We don't have infinity. Our time is limited. Okay? And there's so little time that we have here. And that might seem to be like, oh, I don't have to be pressured. But the opposite is true, right? If you truly care about the people that you care about, if you truly love the people that you love, whether that be your family, whether that be your community, you would think to yourself that you have to adapt, right? And in doing so, that relieves the pressure in terms of regret. Because the biggest pressure of all is regret, because there's nothing that you can do about it. The time has passed, time is slipping away. The moment has already been finished. That's the thing. Next, how to adapt and live unpressured. And I think there's like a few minutes that we could go to this, and I'm gonna rush through it as fast as possible. How to adapt and live unpressured. You have to have fewer wants. You have to engage in fewer things. Explore, but always go back home. Let me share to you a quote from I think Confucius, and it said that a healthy man wants thousands of things, but a sick man only wants one. The next time that you find yourself to have a lot of desires, a lot of wants, and a lot of needs, think about that quote, right? Because we are overlooking our health, we are overlooking our current situation. A healthy man wants 1,000 things, but a sick man only wants one. Next, when to adapt and live unpressured? Whenever you feel overwhelmed, remember the old saying, this too shall pass, because it's the truth. No one will remember any of this, nor will it matter in a few centuries. Life is fleeting. The sun will explode. You have to focus on the most important things. Remember what I said about the true kinds of things that are important to you stand the test of time? This is what I'm talking about, right? Whether you feel overwhelmed, all of these things that's happening, they're all noise. They're all distractions. They're all done, but it's all modern constructs. The really important things in our life will matter beyond your time. Here's the thing, a lot of people would try and read this and say, oh, so it doesn't matter in a few centuries. So that means I should not care about my life. Is that what you're saying? Absolutely not. It's the complete opposite. Because here's the thing, you are a miracle. You are a miracle. You are millions, billions of years in the making. If somewhere along the way your ancestors decided to do something else, you would not be here, right? If your great, 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 great grandparents decided to not bear children, you will not be here. Even if your parents, if they decide to not bear children or not have you at a later date, maybe you're born in December, they decided to do it in January or whatever, you're not going to be here. You are literally a miracle on why you are here. And knowing that means and brings a greater clarity and purpose to how you should live your life and how much time we have left in this world, right? Because we don't have forever. We don't have infinity. If we have infinity, we will not be motivated to do anything because we feel like we would always have tomorrow. But since we have limited time, that's when we should go and want to adapt because we know that our time is ticking. Next, how to adapt and live unpressured? In the past, like maybe in school, there are hundreds of things that you wish you had done differently. Well, here you are now. This is your chance. Do things differently, right? I don't know how this is true for you. Maybe it's in your grade school, maybe it's in high school, maybe it's just last year, right? You said that, you know what, I'm going to be different as a student this following year. This year, I'm going to be a different kind of a student, right? Maybe in terms of students, in terms of academics, maybe that in terms of the choice of friends, your groups, in terms of the risk taking that you did, in terms of the amount of competitions that you put to, the kinds of organizations that you want to join. Most of these things we have a lot of regrets in. Most of these things as students, we feel like we could have done it better. Here you are again. Let me remind you that. Here you are again in that situation. Are you going to let that lesson pass? Are you going to let that lesson go to waste? So here's the thing, do things differently. And here's, I think, the last one, right? How to adapt and live unpressured. Here's the only two things that you need to master in life. Number one, making it happen. And number two, letting it happen. Let me go back to what pressure is. Pressure is internal and external, it could be real or unreal. So, in knowing that, for the things that you can change, make it happen. For the things that you cannot change, let it happen. Simple as that. So, this is the final slide. That concludes my presentation. If you want to see my work, if you're interested in seeing what I do, it's all in my website, right? carlumali.com. That's CARLUMALI.com. And I just want to share the chill guy meme that's absolutely trending right now. Living unpressured is all about being just a chill guy, but it could also be your interpretation of the meme. So yeah, thank you. And I believe there's a Q&A, and if there's still time, let me have it.
Ayan, thank you so much to Mr. Carl Malley for sharing us such powerful insights with us today. So, as the founder of the Clarity Project, I believe he has truly lived up to his purpose of helping us navigate in our quest for vision, just like Bagwis, no? So, he gives us so much clarity on living unpressured and practicing adaptability. And I'm sure that many of us are feeling inspired to approach our challenges with a fresh perspective and a renewed sense of purpose. And personally, for me, what resonated most is the decide mantra. So you have to decide on what you really want. So as someone who has been labeled, and I know this will resonate for many of us, na yung jack of all trades. So napakahirap for me to chase so many things all at once. But I think it's really important to take a step back sometimes and, just really ponder on the things that you really want. So thank you so much for that insightful discussion, Mr. Carl O'Malley. I've truly learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners did too. And now we've reached a special part of our episode, and it is none other than the Q&A session. So this is where we get to hear the thoughts and questions of our R4JPNs and other listeners. So before we dive in, I just want to remind everyone that this is a safe space for you to ask anything that's been on your mind about tonight's topic, whether it's about handling pressure, reducing burnout, or practicing adaptability in your everyday life. No question is too big or too small. So let us now proceed to our Q&A session. Ayan. Let us check the comment section. Yeah, and we first have Mr. RJ in the chat box. So he asks, what advice do you have for students who struggle to balance academics, leadership roles, and personal life?
All right. So can I answer now? All right. So for that, RJ, so it all comes back to your clarity, right? So if you really truly want to do all of those things, then really truly do all of those things. Like nothing is really stopping you. You don't have to be 100% at it. You don't have to be at level 100 at each and every one of those things. The point is that you have to take a risk on it. The point is that you have to actually do it as good and as best as you can. And you don't have to pressure yourself in being the best. No one really starts out as being the best. You have to give yourself room for improvement. You got to have a better understanding of how failure and success works. You don't have to put yourself in just tremendous pressure and to overthinking. So yeah.
Ayan. So I have another question that personally came from me. So you have discussed pressure as unreal, real, and so many things that you have described as pressure. But I want you to touch on this aspect of pressure. Because for me, pressure is a driving force. So how would you see pressure as a driving force in relation us for tonight's topic?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, pressure is not necessarily a bad thing, right? Pressure is sometimes needed for you to be able to change. Pressure is what's needed in order for you to adapt. There's such as a thing as good pressure and bad pressure, right? And the only reason and how you're going to know if it's bad pressure, if it's actually making you a bad person in the future. And sometimes, that's clairvoyance. I could never know whether it's going to turn out in the end. But here's the thing, The only thing that matters today is knowing whether that something is actually contributing to where you want to go, whether that thing is contributing to what you actually want to succeed. So your relationship with pressure should be on that sense. It's not necessarily that it's automatically bad, that it you have to look at it that it could also be good.
Ayan. So thank you so much for that, Mr. Carl Amali. That that we can have a good relationship with pressure. No, so it's really important to live and unpressured and practice adaptability. So let us now look into more questions that we can raise for
Sure.
tonight's episode. Ayan. So, what are some small daily habits that help you reduce stress or maintain a sense of balance? So, ayan po.
All right. So this is like a personal question, but if I would really want to make it applicable to almost everybody, I would suggest that you take like the starter pack, which is you gotta have proper nutrition, proper diet, all of those things, like the boring stuff. Like what are Carl talking about? All of a sudden you're a fitness guru now. No, that is like saying that almost all commercials, despite of the product, despite of the medication, because there's no substitute for that. Okay. And another thing is naps. I've recently done a lot of naps, and I've actually done a lot of strategic naps in order to function at my high capacity. Because here's the thing, sleep and naps, you uh can't really substitute it. You could take a rest in terms of watching YouTube videos, social media is my rest. No, that's not really a substitute. The true substitute is like true rest, true naps. And if you really want to get into it, there's like a different kinds of naps that you can do. Another a familiar nap is called the NASA nap, which is what astronauts do. And it's basically like 10 minutes, 15-minute naps, and it's gonna supposed to make you feel recharged. There's also this thing from Huberman, Andrew Huberman, the podcaster, also the neuroscientist, neurologist. He also talks about the kind of nap that is non-sleep deep rest, the yoga nidra. It is a 25-minute nap where you don't actually sleep. You just close your eyes and you feel your tenses, you feel your senses, you do some practice breathing, and you kind of listen to the host, and you kind of listen to the narrator and what it is that you're going to do. Again, that's yoga nidra. You could look that up. And then there's a recent thing that I discovered, which is called the Napochino, from the word nap and cappuccino. And that is from a sleep doctor, a sleep expert. And it's basically 15 minutes before you're going to do something, you have to take in coffee, or have to take in caffeine. And then after you take in caffeine, you're going to sleep as fast as possible. You might be saying, Carl, how am I going to get to sleep if I just took coffee? Here's the thing, you're going to sleep as fast as possible because caffeine doesn't kick in until 10 to 15 minutes afterwards. So, what's going to happen is that when you wake up after a 10-minute, 15-minute nap, is that those two things will trigger. The first thing is that your energy that you're going to get from the coffee, and the second thing is the energy that you're going to get from the nap itself. That's called the nappuccino. So yeah, I don't want to geek about it, but those are some of the things. And absolutely, another thing that you could do is have some me time. Whatever your hobby is, you gotta have a time for yourself. Yeah.
Ayan, thank you so much for another word added to our vocabulary tonight. So, you mentioned earlier something along the lines of making things happen and letting things happen. So, in relation to that, we have a question that how do you deal with situations that are out of your control? Do you condition yourself to accept it or do you force your way around it? That's really a cool question.
Okay. Okay. So for that, I mean, for the things that you can't really have any effect on, the things that you really have no control towards of, I mean, it's about the clarity of that, right? I mean, I don't see, those two ways could work, right? You could either condition yourself or force yourself, but either way, it's the same thing because once that you understand that you're not, this something cannot be held, you want to let go of it as fast as possible, because what is it doing to you? Right? What it is actually doing to you. You're carrying stones that you don't have to carry anymore. You're carrying baggage that you don't have to carry anymore. And it's just going to be excess load. It's just going to be added load to you and how you're going to pursue your goals and your dreams. Imagine that it is a thorn of roses, right? I imagine that those things that you don't have control towards are the thorns in the roses, and you're trying to cling to it. You're trying to grasp on it as hard as possible. But the truth is, there's really no point in holding on to that thing, no matter how beautiful the rose is, because it's actually hurting you. And another thing is that the rose hasn't maybe picked you. Maybe the rose is just not for you. So it's about the understanding of that relationship, right? There's really no point of you holding on to something that you really have no control towards of. That's it.
And we have here a comment from our Facebook Live. So, can I ask po, what advice can you give to those people na worried about fulfilling the expectations? So, this may be a self expectation or an external expectation. So, what advice can you give to those people?
All right. So expectation from society does work. It is a term of societal status symbol that it does work. It does happen. It does get celebrated, and that's why we love influencers. That's why we love celebrities. But here's the thing: and if it's a self kind of expectation, this is the only kind of expectation that matters. This is the only kind of expectation that you should really care about. It's a one player game, right? You are here alone when you are brought into this world, and you are going to be alone when you say goodbye to this world. The only thing and the longest relationship that you're going to have is with yourself. And so when it comes to expectation with yourself, here's the only thing that you can do. You have to have absolute clarity in what it is that you have to do. And if you don't have 100% clarity, at least know what you want to do next. Know what you want to do today. Know what you want to do the next hour, and do that. Because in contribution to that, this is a way for you to diminish regret by the end of your life. This is the way for you to diminish all of the missed chances and all the regrets that you're going to have by the end of your life. And the only thing that's going to happen is that if you don't succeed in those things, at the very least, you can say to yourself, at least I tried.
Oh, that's very touching. And let us proceed to more questions. So, grabe, I think they're really into this podcast. So, thus, the it is what it is mindset help to reduce the pressure of failing. Do
I'm
you
sorry,
think?
can you repeat that?
Okay, thus, the it is what it is mindset help to reduce the pressure of failing.
Yes, absolutely. So it's like the letting go of the things that you can't change anymore, letting go of the past, right? It is what it is. It's what happened, right? It's like the idiom crying over spilled milk. Why are you gonna cry over spilled milk? It's already spilled. You can't do it anymore. You can't change that. It's already happened. So yeah, it definitely helps.
And we've got two more questions, and they're the last, I believe, because we're running out of time. So this question is Ayan, from an anonymous viewer. So recently, it's really long, flooding my online feed were posts of my relatives and acquaintances about passing their respective licensure examinations. Just right before tonight's session, I felt a surge of pressure for the first time in my entire years of schooling that came from their overwhelming achievements, which made me doubt if I can also achieve that milestone on my own. This boiled out from the fact that recently the decline in my academic performance has been bothering me. It's pressuring me because I know I have to do better and exert more effort to be better and to be in a place of passing the boards in the near future. But I don't have the drive to do it. What do you have to say to people who experience the same pressure if there's any.
Wow, that's a mouthful. So yeah, I believe that she or he was talking about the recent board exams for RNs, right? Registered nurses, because I too have seen that all over my feed. And the only thing, the question is, what can you do to relieve of yourself from that pressure? So, and having the motivation to do so, well, it does work for you if you truly want it, right? I mean, these are the kinds of questions that, yes, you have self doubt in yourself, but we all do. Know that it's normal to have self doubt. But at the same time, you want to be able to do the things that you truly want to do because it's a no brainer for you, right? A lot of things, the Clarity Project, no one told me that, Carl, you got to record and do like a lot of episodes of podcasts. No one told me to do that. I do it because I love to do it. I do it because I like to do it. I do it because that's the goal, right? And so if your goal is to do that, if your goal is to become an to have that licensure to be a licensed professional, then you got to be able to have and come in terms with that reality. You have to realize that this is what it takes for you to achieve that. So the motivation really does come from the activity itself, what it means to you. Maybe it's external, what it means to your family, what it means to your community, to your cause, the people that you care about. All of these things could be a different variation of motivation, and we have different kinds of motivation, right? So to some people, it could be purely about money, financial motivation. To some people, it's impact. To some people, it's self-worth. Now, I wish that I could have this conversation with you so that we could really bring that down to what it is, but know that it could be anything in terms of motivation. And another thing, in terms of actually doing it, understand that sometimes you just have to put in the work.
Ayan. So in relation to that question, we have another question coming from a Facebook comment by Limuel Mendez. So how about po, when alam mo na yung priority mo, yet yung actions mo ay not aligned with it, resulting in overthinking and a lot of stress?
Uh, Quick disclaimer, this is not professional advice. So don't come at me right after whatever the reason is or what's going to happen. But know this, right? So this is kind of something that also happened with me. I came into business school and then I wanted to do business school because I wanted to be in the corporate world and to be able to make films afterwards. Although after college, I realized that, why not create videos? Why not create films and, have the impact right away and not wait? So there really is a tremendous pressure when you want something and you're so far from that something, or there is something, the barrier from where you want to go and where you are currently. That's where you feel the most pressure. In order for you to relieve of yourself of that pressure is to meet those two things together. All right. Now here's the thing. I said this is not professional advice because you might be in a financial situation, you might be in a career situation where doing something for the heck of it, for the money of it, is the practical choice for you to be able to do. It could be the something that is most reasonable for you to achieve and pursue. But ideally, even if you're going to pursue something else rather than what you actually believe in, rather than your true passion, you should always go back, right? You have to let yourself continuously explore. You have to continuously let yourself on what gets put on the table. But at the end of the day, you need to always have a time for yourself. You always need to go back to that passion, always go back to who you are, what you enjoy, what it is that is truly something that is in your heart. Because if you don't do that, it's going to eat you alive.
Ayan. So I said we have two more questions, but last one.
Yeah, sure.
If I am in a situation that is pressuring me and I am not good with handling it, how can I keep my sanity and overcome it?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Um, if I am in a situation that is pressuring me and I am not good with handling it, how can I keep my sanity and overcome it?
this is not professional advice. This is not psychological clinical advice, but yeah, sanity is a whole other thing, right? So yeah, over like this is like a joke to each and every one of us. Every time that we see a beggar, we say like, "Oh, that's a millionaire, right? He got millions of peso, made himself crazy. Oh, that used to be like a top notcher in the board exams. That's super. That's someone who's really smart and made himself crazy." I mean, it's like a funny thing that we say here today in society. That's almost like a cliche. But here's the thing, man. Nothing is really worth your sanity. That's the only thing that I can say to you. Nothing is really worth your sanity. Nothing is really worth your peace. Nothing is really worth that you can have a miserable life on. That's the only thing. And here's the thing, you're right. You do want to achieve these things. I know that. I can't say that you should drop it. I just say that you should recollect and rethink every decision that you're going to have. Maybe you're trying to push yourself too thinly, right? You're trying to go 100 miles an hour when doing it only requires 50 miles an hour.
Ayan, so that gives you the last question for tonight's Q&A sessions. Ooh, so those answers were really well thought out. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Carl O'Malley. So although we still have a lot of questions to address, I believe they can reach out to you in so
Yeah.
many ways naman after this podcast, and this won't be the last time that they can interact with you, no? So let us now proceed to thanking you for gracing us with your presence tonight. So we want to extend our huge thanks to Mr. Carl O'Malley for sharing his wisdom and practical insights. So your message is a powerful reminder that we can thrive, not just survive, by practicing adaptability and prioritizing our well-being. So on behalf of the NFJP Region 4 Council and everyone here tonight, maraming salamat po for inspiring us and for being a beacon of wisdom and guidance. So may you continue to empower and touch the lives of many. So I'm giving you the floor to briefly promote yourself or your socials for our listeners to further reach you out for their concerns. No?
All right. Thank you, everybody, for having this evening with us. I'd like to thank your whole organization and congratulating you for such a terrific event. And yeah, if you want to reach out to me, if you want to know my work, if you want to see my work and everything that I do, the Clarity Project is not just about videos, not just about articles. It's like a whole sets of media that you could really look on, and there's really something for everybody, right? You could look at my website, which is www.carlumali.com. That's www.carlumali.com. And you could see all of my links in there. And so if you really want to reach out, if you're interested and you're curious, you could check that out. Thank you so much.
Ayan, so feel free to reach out to Mr. Carlo Mali for your further questions and concerns. So I think that wraps up tonight's episode. To all our listeners, Arford JPNs and beyond, thank you for joining us tonight. If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to share it with your friends, your classmates, or anyone who might need a little extra encouragement.